Hello and welcome to the Out of the Sandbox video guide to the page templates. Today I'm going to talk to you about the alternate page templates that come built in with your Out of the Sandbox theme. This video is referring to the most recent versions of the themes, which are, at the time of this filming, Parallax version 2.4, Retina 3.2, Responsive 5.1, and Mobilia 4.3. So if you're using one of those versions of the themes, you'll see the templates that I'm talking about. If you're using older versions of the themes, you may not see some of the templates. And if you're using newer versions and talking to you in the future, I don't know what templates are going to be there at this point. Another important thing to keep in mind is that those templates, the alternate templates, will only appear if your theme is published, if it's in this published state here. So if you're looking to use any of these alternate templates, but you're configuring your shop in an unpublished state, you will not see those templates whenever you go over to the Pages interface on Shopify. So with that covered, what I'm going to do first is talk to you about the 3 page templates that sort of control the overall margins of your content. So it's not going to do anything fancy other than control the overall margins of the page. So here is the About page that I'm composing. I've put in some text followed by an image and some more text. If we take a look at the HTML editor, it's fairly straightforward. We've got some strong tags that just adds that emphasis to some of the text. We've got these break tags. Break tags will render the following content onto the next line. Here's the image that we've added. The image looks like it has been centered. We've got some more strong tags here, and then this whole thing has been wrapped in some paragraph tags. So some basic HTML markup. A lot of this could be done automatically by just entering the text and images you'd like into this editor here. As you can see, I have selected the page template as the template I'd like to use, just the conventional regular page template. And I'll save. Then I'm going to view this page to take a look. This is what it looks like. So we've got fairly conventional margins on the left and right of the content, then the image is appearing, and then the text. So it's following along exactly what we've done. And then just to sort of talk to you about how the theme is built, or the framework of the theme, these margins along the side here are the conventional margins for this theme. Then if you take a look at pretty much from this O right here, all the way to this E at the end of the line, that is the width of the framework of the theme. And you can sort of picture that width split into 16 different pieces. We call it the 16-column framework. What I'm going to show you right now is just how to control the overall margins of this page, but then I'm going to show you how you can actually put content into different columns on the page, evenly spaced columns using a very simple method. And then I'm going to show you a slightly more advanced method that taps right into the 16-column framework so that you can dictate how you separate your content into columns on the page. It doesn't need to be evenly spaced columns. You can do multiple rows, all kinds of fun stuff with the built-in 16-column framework. Of course, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about those basic templates that can control the overall margins of this page. So we've got these conventional margins. So I'm going to show you an alternative option, which is page.narrow. And as I save that, I'm not going to go view. I'm actually just going to pop back over to the live page and refresh it so that you can see the change happen. So this is the width of the regular page template, whereas this is the width of the page.narrow template. And that's occupying the center 12 columns of the framework. The complete opposite of that would be the page.wide template, which actually breaks the content out of the 16-column framework to allow it to span the full width of the screen, which you can see here. So this layout doesn't necessarily work for the content that we have, but if you're in the situation where you're looking to have your text content or your images span the entire width of the screen, then the page.wide template is the one that you're going to be looking for. Now to move along into some ways that we can split this content up into various columns. So here we are on the same About page, the same HTML markup that we were just looking at. The very first step to using the simple method for splitting content into columns is to change the template to the page.multi-column template. Paramount importance, because what we're about to do will not function if you do not set it to this template. So for this example, let's say I would like to have this portion of text appear on the left half of the screen, and this image with this text appearing on the right side of the screen. So it may sound like we are splitting it into two columns. In a sense, we are splitting the layout into two columns. But when we're talking about the column framework, we're actually putting those pieces of content into 8 column divs, into 8 column sections, because 2 8-column sections will span the entire 16 column framework. To use the simple method for splitting up your content, you're going to use something called a split tag. And to insert that, I'm going to locate where the image is in the HTML, which is right here. So everything from here down represents the image and the section of text that I want to appear on the right side of the screen. I'm actually just going to add some spaces here to make that obvious. And then I'm going to add the split tag. Here is how to add the split tag. You're going to do an open bracket like this, exclamation point, dash dash, space, S-P-L-I-T for split, space, dash dash, and the close bracket. It needs to be exactly like that. Make sure to respect the spaces, make sure you've got that exclamation point. If you follow along exactly, then this will function for splitting your page content up into 2 columns. You will not see it in the editor here because it's specific to the theme. But you will see it whenever you go over to your page, you refresh it, and there we go. So no, I'm not suggesting that this is the best layout for this content, but here is a perfect example of splitting the 16-column framework into 2 pieces, allowing everything above the split to appear on the left side, everything below the split to appear on the right side. What an easy way to split your page into 2 columns. But wait, it's also easy to split your page into 3 columns, even 4 columns. So let's say I want it to now show 3 sections: page content, copy, then the image, and then the other section of copy. I'm going to go ahead and copy the split tag. I could type it in again if I'd like, but instead I'm just going to locate where the second section of text begins, and I'm going to insert that split tag right above it. So now we have 2 split tags, splitting it into 3 pieces. And this is what it looks like. Isn't that great? So that is a very, very easy way for you to go ahead and wheel and deal and split up your content into different columns. So you can see, this even works with 4 columns. This even works with 4 columns. And I'll just wrap that in paragraph tags. And then as we see here now, we split it into those 4 columns. So there's a great way for you to cut up your page into different sections. All right, now on to something a little bit more complicated, which is using the 16-column framework in any way that you would like. So for this example, I have added a little bit more to this page. This is a regular page template that we're looking at now. We've got text, an image, some more text, an image, and some more text. So I'm counting 5 potential different sections. So to show you how we can sort of wheel and deal with this content and get it into these different columns, let's first envision the way that we would like to see this page. So I'm going to say that I kind of want this text spanning to about here, so a good portion of the page with a smaller image to the right of it. And then I am looking at this section being a small section on the left with an image in the middle, and then this text to the right of it. So I'm looking at a 2-column on top of a 3-column deal. So to do this, let me show you how this is done. Head back over into the page editor. You see we're using the conventional page template. You do not need to set this to page.multi-column for the method I'm about to show you. You can leave it set to page. So I'm going to flip over to the HTML editor here. And what I always find helpful is adding some spaces here between all of the different sections that I have identified. Which I can do just like this. There's some text. This is another image. and then this is some more text. So don't worry about the spaces that you add here. It will all be removed whenever you save the page, but it does sort of help you visualize a little bit better the 5 different portions that we're working with. So here is the magic HTML markup that we are going to be using to split this stuff into columns. So it's div class equals open quotation, and then this is where we enter the number of columns out of the 16 column framework that we would like this content to occupy. And it will indeed start from the left. So I'm going to say, let's give this 10 columns. And the important thing to remember is that whenever you are addressing the leftmost section, you're going to want to add alpha to the class. Close the quotation, close the bracket, and most importantly, head to the bottom of the section and close the div. If you make any errors in opening a div and then not properly closing it, the editor that we have here will try to figure it out, and it's going to adjust your code to a way that it will work, and it's going to add closed divs likely in places that you do not intend to add them. So very important, I highly suggest separating your content out like this and then making sure that you're addressing each section individually and making sure to close any of the divisions that you happen to open. So if we want the text appearing in the 10 leftmost columns, and we want the image appearing in the rest of the columns, how many columns do we have left? Div class equals open quotation 6 columns. And since we are referring to the rightmost section, we're going to want to add omega. So this alpha and omega class, not to get too far into detail, but these will add the proper margins that you need to present the content at the leftmost or the rightmost sections of the framework. And to follow up on what I said there, the high importance of adding the closed div. You know what? This is actually enough for us to save it and take a look at the outcome. So I'm going to go ahead and save. As you see, all those spaces were removed. And I can head back over to my page here and refresh. And there we have it. We've got the text occupying the 10 leftmost columns of the 16 column framework, and then the image occupying the rest. Let's carry right along and take care of this 3 column section. So to do that, back over to this page, the HTML editor. This is the stuff that I've just worked with here. And so then I'm going to separate out the rest to help me visually apply these classes. Great. So let's say I want to do, let's do a div class equals, how about 4 columns? And remember, we're at the leftmost, so we need to add alpha. Close the bracket. Jump to the bottom of the section and add a closed div. Great. This here, let's give it the center 6 columns. Div class equals, open quotation, 6 columns. And since this is in the middle, we do not need to add an alpha or an omega to the class. Close the quotation, close the bracket, then jump down to the bottom of that section, being the end of the image, and close the div. So we have 4 occupied here, 6 occupied here, for a total of 10, leaving us with 6 remaining columns for the last section of text. Just like that. But of course, because we're dealing with the rightmost section, add omega. Close quotation, close bracket, and of course, don't forget, close your div. All right, so we've got something interesting to play with now. If you're like me, you get kind of excited at this point to see how is this all going to render whenever I press refresh, and look at that. So we've managed to split this page up into these various sections. So the top portion is split into 2, the bottom portion is split into 3, none of the portions are even, which is great. So you've got that kind of flexibility. Now, I'm going to show you something that is fairly specific to what we're doing here, because we have split this content into columns, but we have done nothing to split it into rows vertically. And I'll show you what the outcome is. So the whole reason that we use this 16-column framework is to build a responsive layout. So watch all of these different sections as I constrain my viewport width. I'm making my window smaller, so pretend that we're about to look at it on a tablet, or we're about to look at it on a mobile device. How is this content going to render? Oh, we've got this interesting sort of layout happening, this great adjustment. Ooh, so this might not be the best. This could be considered broken. I don't know exactly what device you would be looking at that would give you this layout that has this viewport width, but it is indeed problematic. And as we close it on down, the sections all stack up, which is what you would expect on a mobile device. But of course, this breakpoint range looks broken, and it is indeed problematic. So I'm going to show you the pro tip for making sure that that doesn't happen, and that involves separating the content into rows as well as columns. So back over to the page, trigger the HTML editor, and take a look at this. We've got the 10 columns occupied here, followed by the 6 columns occupied here. So that is an entire 16-column row. So let's separate it out like that. Jump to the top of the section and add open bracket div class equals open quotation row. So row is the name of the class that we use to distinguish these classes, to separate them into rows. And of course, don't forget to close the div. See how there's 2 closed divs? Because we have 2 open divs following each other, we need to close them both as well. I'm going to do the same thing here. Div class equals open quotation row, close quotation, close bracket. Go all the way to the bottom of that row code and close the div, close the bracket, save that. Now let's take a look. Let's refresh this. Very minor difference between the desktop layout. There's a slightly larger space between these rows now, but as we constrain the viewport width, we no longer have that problematic range of screen sizes. Everything is staying within its own row, sort of buddy-buddy with the other sections that are within that class, within that division. So that's really the bulk of how you can use the 16-column framework for your own reasons. Important thing is make sure that everything adds up to 16. You don't want anything sort of landing short of filling out the full framework, and if you have something occupying more than the 16 columns, it's going to render on the next line, and it will not be the layout that you intend. Then of course, if you're making these various sections, go ahead and add the div class row to split them into, in a sense, vertical sections as well. To wrap up our discussion on the alternate page templates, let's take a look at the page templates that I have not yet covered in this video. So as we take a look at the list, I have indeed covered some of these templates in past videos, so I'd like to refer you to those now. The page.collections template has been covered in the collections video, where it talks about how you can make a page that features thumbnail links that will access collections. So it's not a collection page, which features a listing of products, it's instead a page of collections, where you can list collections with thumbnail links. So go check out that video, jump down to that section from the table of contents if you want to see how to use the page.collections template. The page.contact template was covered in the video that features the contact page, the cart, the checkout, and the currency converter, so go check out that page to see how you can configure your contact page. The gallery page has its own video, so if you were to look up the gallery in the Out of the Sandbox Support Center, then you would find an article that has that video attached to it, a real quick video talking to you about how you can configure your gallery page. We talked about multi-column, we talked about narrow, we talked about wide, so this leaves 2 that we have not yet addressed. We've got page.notitle, and I've done a lot of talking in this video so far, so instead of describing what this is going to do, I think you already have a pretty good idea. Would you look at that? Just what you expected, I am sure. Finally, we've got the page.sidebar template. I want to show this to you, but I do have a huge disclaimer. So the page.sidebar will add the conventional sidebar that you see on the collection page, product page, and home page if you have them enabled of your site. This sidebar occupies the 4 leftmost columns of the 16-column framework. So considering that we've just gone in here and based our decisions on how to divvy up this page based on 16 columns, this is not going to display the way that we want once we enable the sidebar by selecting the page.sidebar template. Instead, we need to sort of assume that we're working with 12 columns, the 12 remaining columns, and make adjustments to this content in that sense. So instead of showing you on this page, I've got another page prepared that does not have the column classes that I added to that page. I'm going to go ahead, choose the sidebar template and save it and preview this page. And there it is. So we've got on the 4 leftmost columns, we have the sidebar here and then the content that we're dealing with. But where did this sidebar content come from, you ask? Well, I'll show you. Head back over to your admin panel, down to themes, into customize theme, into the sidebar settings. And here you don't need to enable the home page, collection page, or product page sidebar for it to appear on the product page. You just go in here and you select either a page of content that you created in the Pages interface of Shopify, or a menu, formerly known as a link list, that you would configure through the Navigations tab of Shopify. You can actually choose 2 content pages, a top and a bottom, for the Parallax theme at least, and then you can choose 2 menus. The other themes have very similar settings for their sidebars. To keep in mind though, these settings here, list of collections, tags, product types, and vendors, those will appear whenever you're looking at a sidebar on a collection page. They will not appear on the product page sidebar. So that pretty much does it. We have covered all of the alternate templates that come built in with the Out of the Sandbox theme as of the time of this filming. If you have any questions about what we have covered, head on over to the support center at support.outofthesandbox.com, where you can look up a question to see if we have answered it previously, or you can go ahead and email us support@outofthesandbox.com, or use the built-in contact form in the support center website so that you can send us your question, and the pros at the Out of the Sandbox support team will respond to you in a timely manner, hopefully with a great answer for you that can set you on your way. Thank you very much for joining me for this video about the alternate page templates. Take care.